So you've done your research, you've written your summaries, and you've written your MLA citations, and you are ready to format your annotated bibliography. So the first thing you're going to do, if you haven't already, is go to the sample paper on Blackboard, and you look at the way that it's formatted. You're going to notice on the left-hand side is the name of the professor, the class, and the date. In the upper right-hand corner is the last name and page number. You have a title centered with no extra space before the title, no extra space at the end of the title. This title is split into 2 lines. That's your option. You can have it on 2 lines or 1 line. You notice that the first line of each entry is at the left-hand margin. The entire thing is double spaced. All subsequent lines are indented. Right? The header, last name and page number, continues on subsequent pages, and this is not typed in, it's actually formatted in through the header. It's in alphabetical order. It's in Times New Roman 12 font. So that's how to set up an MLA paper. There's also a link in Essay Basics that is going to take you to a regular MLA formatted paper in a Microsoft Word document. So this isn't an annotated bibliography, but it has some information about formatting any document as an MLA document. All right. So let's say you've got all that information, but yours is looking more like this. In fact, yours might even look more like this, because Microsoft Word loves Calibri. So this is what a lot of times after you've written up your paper, it's going to look like. So your job is to convert it from this into what the sample looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the font to Times New Roman. Now, you can do all of these things before you start typing, and it will set up some of the format for you. But if you're more comfortable just typing everything in and then fixing the format, this is how you do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight everything. Control All, by the way, will highlight everything. And I'm going to go in and change the font to Times New Roman. Now, where you find things like the font and the spacing tools are going to be different depending on the version of Microsoft Word that you're using, or if you're using a different word processing program altogether. So I'm going to show you some of the basics with my version of Word, which is 2013, but I know on my version on my other computer it's 2007, and they've changed where some of this stuff goes. They tend to bury the settings in places. If you're using a different version and you can't figure out how to work one of these things, I just go out to Google, type in Microsoft Word 2007, how to, and then fill in the blank with whatever I'm looking to do. And I tend to find some pretty useful tutorials on YouTube, actually, for finding this stuff really quickly. Some 2-minute videos, and all of a sudden I know how to do this. So I changed my font, first of all. I also see that this is double spaced or single spaced, and the example is double spaced. So again, I highlight everything. On my version, it's on the Home tab under Paragraph. Double spacing. I can also hit Control 2 if I'm using a Windows product. Control 2, and now I'm double spaced. Again, this is also something you can do before you start typing. Now the other one had no extra spacing, and because of the way I had it set up, you can see there's now extra space between my entries. So I'm going to go in and manually delete that. Right? There's also an extra space here. I'm going to manually delete that. Well, it still isn't quite looking right, so we have to fix some other things. In the upper left-hand corner, remember on the example, name, professor, class, date. On this one, I then need to mimic that. I need to go name, professor, class, date. And now I have my heading. Right? The other one also has a title. So for this, I want you to use a brief version of whatever title you might want to use. So let's say Better Supporting Teen Parents. And then a colon, Annotated Bibliography. Again, this can be on 2 lines or 1 line, your call. And I need this to be centered. So here, again, it's on my Home tab, and it looks like this little center thing. So I'm going to go to center. All right, we're getting closer. The next thing I need is my name and page number in the upper right-hand corner. This is called a header. You can use Insert Header. My suggestion is to insert a page number first. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to Home again. Insert. And again, this is going to be in different places and different versions, but I've got page number. One on the top of the page. When I hover over that, like I said, Microsoft Word loves options. So I want mine on the upper right-hand corner, so I click on that option. And if you see, if I scroll over, it's opened up a header for me, and I've got my page number. I type in my name. Voila, name and page number. Now this is not in Times New Roman. Like I said, Microsoft loves Calibri, so I'm going to go over here and change it to Times New Roman. And now I've got my last name and page number. And you can see that if I go down to a second page, it's already there, last name, page number. I don't type that on each page. Alright, so we're a lot closer than we were. We've got a heading on the left, we've got a header in the upper right. We have a title centered with no extra spacing before or after the title. We have a double-spaced paper in Times New Roman. So, next step has to do with spacing these entries. As you see in the sample, again, all the way to the left margin for the first, indented for all the rest. So, to make that happen, I'm going to highlight my entries. Microsoft Word doesn't like to space things, particularly in this way. So, a lot of times if you put your cursor at the beginning of a line and hit space, nothing happens. Sometimes I have luck by hitting enter and backspace and then space, but that's just like some workarounds. Another way to fix this, although again it's not perfect, is to use what's called hanging indents. And this can be in a different place in different versions, but for me it's under paragraph, and I click the little expander, and under special formatting I have the option of clicking on hanging. So I'm going to click OK and hope this works. Alright, well, we're like halfway there. It looks like we have the left margin correct, and we have an indent for the second line, but it's looking like it's not indenting my first lines for some reason. So I'm going to have to troubleshoot that just a little bit. Alright, so I think what happened is, when I look at this, Microsoft Word is recognizing the first two lines here as a single paragraph, and the paragraph starting, I am a very well and precise summary, very well written and precise summary. It's because I hit enter at the end of my entry, it's reading that as its own paragraph. Does that make sense? So I have to think about, how does Microsoft Word think? So instead, a hanging indent takes a paragraph, and it leaves the first line of the paragraph to the left margin, and it shoots everything over after that. This is reading it as two paragraphs. So it did what I told it to do, which is to put the first line to the left and the second line over, but it's reading it as two paragraphs instead of one paragraph. So again, this is the process. This is troubleshooting how different programs work. So the way I'm going to fix that is to highlight, since it's seeing this as its own paragraph. I'm going to go back into my paragraph section, and I'm going to undo the hanging indent, and instead I'm just going to indent the whole thing 1/2 inch. Alright, so I have indentation left 0.5 and click OK. There we go. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing with the next one. I highlight, home, paragraph. I'm going to unhanging indent it because it's recognizing this as its own line, or as its own paragraph, and I'm going to indent it 0.5 spaces, 0.5 inches, and I click OK. I hope that makes sense and wasn't too confusing, but I want to show you some of the troubleshooting stuff, because not everything works perfectly the first time you try, even when you've done this 100 times. Okay, so now if you look, it looks a whole lot more like my sample, right? When I look at my sample, the only difference I'm noticing is that in the sample, it's alphabetized. And notice that this alphabet starts A, B, right? And even though this author's name is B here and we don't have an author, the first letter was A. Now, different guides will have you do different things with the word the. Some of them just get rid of the word the as if it doesn't count, and some do keep the word the. So here, if you're keeping the word the, this isn't in alphabetical order. If you're not, it is. For now, I'm going to keep the word the, which means that I need to re-alphabetize this. All right, so I just took that entry and I moved it down. So now we have an alphabetical, properly formatted, MLA Annotated Bibliography. Once you get the hang of this formatting, it'll be like second nature. But you'll still have some troubleshooting. So good luck with your formatting, and I look forward to reading your writing.